Welcome to Purolator's Operation Safety, 8 Common Risks. Purolator has a high sense of care with a safety always approach to all we do. Your safety while working at Purolator is of our utmost importance. This session will take you through the 8 most common risks you will face on this job and prepare you on how to address those risks safely. Safety is a culture, and it will take you and all of us at Purolator to always be safe. General safety awareness and readiness. Let's begin with general safety awareness. To start off, we'll take a moment to walk through the agenda. These are the learning and performance objectives for this session. By the end of this session, you should be able to follow general safety practices across all locations on Purolator premises, from parking lots to the depot and in the dock and yard. Demonstrate general safety understanding. Safety is something that factors into everything we do at Purolator. It begins when you arrive in the parking lot, carries through your workday, until you leave the premises. There are a number of general workplace safety do's and don'ts. Some of the do's. Wear PPE properly and ensure it's in good condition. Take your breaks and stay hydrated. Make eye contact with pedestrians and workers operating vehicles. Use caution around equipment, machinery, and vehicles. Report incidents and accidents to your manager. Use safe lifting practices. Follow instructions on warning signs. Some of the don'ts. Do not engage in horseplay in the work environment. Do not run in the depot or the yard areas. Do not ignore hazards. Do not operate machinery or equipment if you're not trained. Do not walk on conveyor belts. Do not wear loose-fitting clothing or dangling jewelry. Do not catch falling objects. We all have a personal responsibility to ensure our own safety and the safety of others around us. That means wearing the appropriate clothing, wearing PPE, following safety procedures and techniques, and being mindful of human factors that can impact workplace safety. These human factors include rushing, frustration, fatigue, complacency. Complacency means you are so accustomed to doing the task that you are not paying attention to what you're doing or to the environment. You're assuming everything is static when in fact something may be different. That means you won't be ready for it. Working while experiencing any of these physical states can lead to critical errors, such as taking your eyes or mind off the task, putting yourself or someone else in the line of fire, or losing your grip or balance. These critical errors can lead to serious injury.
Are you ready for work? While Purolator takes proactive measures to help our health and safety, as employees, we have a personal responsibility to actively participate in these measures. Here are some things you can do to make sure you're safety ready. Always make sure you have your personal protective equipment or PPE with you when you arrive. This includes the appropriate footwear, your safety vest, gloves, and anything else that might be specific to your role. Avoid wearing dangly jewelry and loose-fitting clothing. If a certain article of clothing must be worn, ensure that it is firmly secured or tucked so it won't get caught on equipment. Hoodie sweaters should only be worn if the drawstrings are removed. All lanyards must be tearaway. Lanyards without the tearaway feature are not permitted. Keep long hair and beards tied back and away from any machinery nip points. It's important to maintain safety readiness when you arrive in the Purolator parking lot and when you leave at the end of your workday. Be mindful of snow, ice, uneven surfaces, and other environmental factors that can cause issues before you even step in the building. Remember to report all unsafe conditions to your manager immediately. While inside the building, maintain your safety awareness through mindful interaction with people and the machinery. This can be as simple as making eye contact with vehicle operators, avoiding horseplay, and reporting hazards and injuries. If you find yourself being rushed, becoming frustrated, experiencing fatigue, or behaving with complacency, Stop and take a moment to address your physical state. Ignoring these feelings can lead to critical errors, like taking your eyes or mind off the task, ending up in the line of fire, or losing your balance, traction, or grip. If you feel you are not fit for duty, or you recognize any of these signs in another employee, report this to your manager immediately. If you see something, say something.
Your safety matters. By practicing safety readiness and awareness at all times, you contribute to a healthy and safe workplace for everyone.
Dangling earrings, decorative or winter scarves, long necklace, a wallet chain, long hair not tied back, and the long beard. These can be considered hazards. All of these items can get caught on equipment or machinery, which can pull you in and cause serious injury or worse. Avoid wearing dangling accessories or having your hair loose. If you must wear a scarf, for example, ensure it's tucked in. The importance and benefits of wearing PPE. These are the learning and performance objectives for this session. By the end of this session, you should be able to define PPE, identify appropriate and inappropriate footwear, identify the types of vests and who wears them, wear your vest correctly, explain the consequences of not wearing PPE, proactively prevent injuries and damage by wearing the correct PPE. PPE stands for Personal Protective Equipment. PPE is specialized clothing or equipment that we wear to protect our bodies against health and safety hazards. Types of PPE include gloves, safety vest, safety footwear, and toe guards. Safety footwear can be boots or shoes with protective reinforcement such as steel or composite material in the toe to protect the foot from falling objects. Safety footwear prevents potential foot injuries from falling or rolling objects, motorized and manual equipment for material handling, crushing, or penetration from sharp objects. Appropriate footwear is required at all times. If your safety boots or shoes do not have the green label, they're not compliant with Purolator safety policies. Shoes must be in good condition. If the treads in the sole are worn out or steel is showing through the toe area, the shoes won't be permitted and need to be replaced. Toe guards are devices that fit over the toes of regular footwear to protect your toes from being crushed. If you don't have safety shoes yet, you're permitted to wear regular shoes as long as you wear toe guards with them until you're able to get safety shoes. Toe guards are designed to prevent temporary protection and should not be permanently used in place of safety footwear. There are some types of shoes that are not permitted, not even with toe caps. Imagine something heavy or pointy falling and landing on your toe while wearing something like these. For those reasons, these types of footwear are not allowed to be worn in the warehouse by any employee. No open-toe shoes, no clogs or croc-style shoes, no slippers or ballet-style shoes. Safety vests are a specialized type of vest designed to have high visibility and reflectivity. Safety vests are to be worn by all employees in the yard and in the depot. There are 3 types that we use. Yellow is the standard for most employees. Blue is for managers. Red is for first aiders. The approved vests are the 5-point tearaway type. These are a specialized type of vest that will tear away from your body in the event it gets caught in a running conveyor. You can get your yellow, blue, or red vest from your manager, who will order the right color for your role. Why is it necessary to wear safety vests at all times? For visibility. Why is visibility important? There are a lot of things happening on Purolator grounds at any given moment. People walking from one location to another, people operating vehicles like forklifts and trucks, and people operating equipment like pallet jacks and conveyors. Everyone needs to be able to see everyone else as they move around through the premises.
Your personal protective equipment, or PPE, is a safe bet to ensure that you're visible and protected while at work. It's not just important to wear it, it's important to wear it correctly and wear the vest provided to you by Purolator. The 5-point tearaway vest will tear away from your body should you get caught in a moving conveyor. Let's take a look at my coworker, Dominic. He's currently wrapping a pallet load. Is there anything wrong with this picture? He's wearing a safety vest, but something is not quite right. He's not wearing his safety vest properly. With the vest slung over one shoulder, it's only visible from one side. It would be very easy for a coworker operating a forklift or a truck to not see him in this environment. There is also a risk of it getting caught on equipment or machinery. Thankfully, this was only a minor incident. Here is the correct way to wear a safety vest. Put the vest on the same way you would a jacket, with each arm through the sleeves. Then fasten it at the front so the vest is fully visible and not hanging loose on your body. Vests are only one part of the PPE picture. Footwear is also extremely important. When I began working at Purolator, I didn't take advantage of the footwear reimbursement program. I learned pretty quickly why it's important to wear the right shoes. One day, Dominic was walking towards me with a heavily loaded pallet jack. He almost ran over my foot. I wasn't even wearing toe guards. I got out of the way just in time. I immediately put on toe guards to wear for the rest of the day. I also talked to my unit manager about how to take part in the footwear reimbursement program. It was easy. I got the shoes I wanted, and Purolator paid me back. No more taking chances for me. PPE exists for your protection. Not wearing it can have serious consequences. In some work locations, other personal protective equipment may be required. This may include hearing protection, where noise levels may exceed prescribed levels.
What might happen if you come to work and don't wear your PPE? You will need to talk to your manager or supervisor immediately. Most importantly, you can get hurt. But that's not the only thing. The policy is in place for a reason. It's there to protect you from harm. Preventing and handling slips, trips, and falls. Let's now discuss the prevention of handling slips, trips, and falls. These are the learning and performance objectives for this session. By the end of this session, you should be able to recognize the common causes of slips, trips, and falls, reduce the risk and prevent slip, trips, and falls, report incidents. What are some causes of slips, trips, and falls? Slippery materials, surfaces, inappropriate or worn out footwear, uneven walking surfaces, unexpected, unseen steps or platforms, wrinkled carpet, loose mats, clutter on floor, stairs, exposed cables, wires, and cords. Knowing the common causes means that we all have a responsibility to take measures to prevent slips, trips, and falls from occurring. Let's look at each one of these causes and see if we can come up with ways these hazards can be addressed. There are things we can do to prevent these hazards. Use appropriate non-slip material. Provide adequate lighting. Good housekeeping. Report spills and debris immediately. Mark or identify spills in wet areas. Keep walkways clear of clutter and other obstacles. Cover or tape down cords and cables. Footwear. Match your footwear to all hazards of your job. Keep shoes or boots clean and in good repair. You don't always have control over your environment, but what you do have control over is how you move through it and how you do your job. We all have a personal responsibility to take ownership for how careful we are at work. What are some things you can personally do to prevent slips and trips? Slips. Slow down and pay attention to where you're going. Place each foot firmly and flat on the floor. Adjust stride to be suitable for the walking surface and task. Walk with feet pointed slightly outward. Make wide turns at corners. Trips. Keep walking paths clear from clutter and obstructions. Keep floors in good condition. Use installed light sources that provide sufficient light for your tasks. Use a light if you enter a dark room. Do not let objects you're carrying or pushing block your view. Despite Purolator's responsibility to take measures to prevent slips, trips, and falls, and despite taking personal responsibility to reduce your own risk, sometimes slips, trips, and falls happen anyway. If you are involved in or witness a slip, trip, or fall, it's your responsibility to report it immediately to your manager. You must report injuries or illness, property damage including vehicle accidents and fires, environmental damage, chemical spills or releases, or incidents, or near misses. All injuries and illnesses, no matter how small they might seem, must be reported, even if your injury is as small as a paper cut, or even if you feel just a little nauseous. You must report every type of injury or illness. What's the difference between an incident and an accident? An accident is an event that results in injury, illness, or damage to property or the environment. All accidents must be reported, whether injuries are minor or serious, and whether property or environment damage is minor or serious. An incident, near miss, is a situation that, if left unchanged, could result in injury, illness, or damage to property or the environment. At Purolator, we treat incidents and near misses as serious as accidents. Even if no one was injured or no property or environment was damaged, all incidents must be reported and investigated.
Let's take a walk around the Purolator premises. We'll look out for any hazards that could lead to a slip, trip, or fall. As you can see, it's a busy day here, just like any other. Anita has been working here for years, so she knows her way around the depot. But how can she see around that big box? Heads up, Anita! Keep your eyes on the task. Anita's shoes are soft, they have no treads, and they don't even stay on her feet. What if she stepped on something sharp? She should be putting her best foot forward by wearing the correct footwear. I don't know about you, but I didn't see that package. Someone should really do something about that light. Since I spotted it, it's my responsibility. Don't ignore it. Report it. It might take longer to walk around or clear a path, but does this look safe? It looks like an obstacle course to me. Clear any clutter. And don't cut corners. It snowed today, and someone has tracked in some slush from outside. We can't stop all spills and puddles from happening, but we can stop an incident, or worse, an accident from occurring. This pothole is a twisted ankle waiting to happen. Did you know that ankle injuries are the #1 type of accident on our premises? Watch your step and always report anything that needs to be fixed. One time, I was in a hurry to get back to work after a break, so I jogged back to my workstation. I tripped over the corner of a broken pallet, landed on the floor, and bruised my knee. It wasn't serious, but it could have been. I reported the incident right away. Reporting every type of incident, no matter how small it may seem, helps to keep our workplace safe. Since that incident, I remind myself not to run in the depot and to watch where I'm going at all times. It's my personal responsibility, and yours, to make good choices and act in a safe way, even if you feel rushed, frustrated, tired, or complacent. Take your time, watch your step, and stay on your feet. It's up to you.
Using safe lifting practices. We'll spend this session learning about and practicing safe lifting techniques. These are the learning and performance objectives for this session. By the end of this session, you should be able to explain and demonstrate the 4 principles of safe lifting, prevent injuries by using safe lifting practices, make safe lifting practices automatic by creating muscle memory. Our job has a large physical component. It's important to be aware of our physical state in everything that we do at work and even outside of work. Because lifting is such a major part of our work, it's essential that we are especially vigilant. There are a number of techniques we can use to lift safely. We'll be learning about those shortly, but there are some other very important factors to consider before we do any lifting at all. These are human factors. Our physical state can influence how we complete our tasks, including lifting. Let's review the human factors. What can happen if you're experiencing human factors while lifting packages? rushing, frustration, fatigue, complacency.
So much of our work involves lifting and moving packages. There are 4 key principles to safe lifting. Here's what they look like. Principle 1. Keep your back straight. It may sound strange, but keeping your back straight is how we respect the natural curves of our spine. A straight back is a strong back. How can you tell if you're not respecting the natural curves of your spine? Your back will be rounded. Rounding your spine makes it weaker and easier to injure. Principle 2. Use the right muscles. Your leg muscles are the largest, so when lifting packages, especially heavier ones, use your legs. How can you lift with your legs when it's your arms and hands holding the package? Think of it as a transfer of energy. Your hands and arms are holding the package, but your leg muscles are giving power to your upper body to carry the load. If you don't get your legs involved, you won't have as much power and your balance will be unstable. This creates a risk of injury. Principle 3. Point your feet in the direction of the effort. Simply put, don't twist your body. Pointing your feet in the direction of the effort keeps you balanced and helps you use your leg muscles. Twisting your body weakens your load-carrying ability and creates opportunities for injuries. Principle 4. Hold the package close. This keeps the center of gravity close to your body, which keeps you stable and reduces your overall effort. Holding the package away from your body means you'll have to work harder. The key to mastering safe lifting techniques is practice. The first time you lift a package following these principles, it may feel uncomfortable. Our bodies create muscle memory when we repeat the same motions. With practice, the techniques will start to feel normal. If you're rushing, feeling tired, frustrated, or not keeping your mind on your task, stop before you lift. Take a moment to identify your state and then resume, following the safe lifting principles. This will prevent critical errors and injuries from occurring. Safe and happy lifting!
4 principles of safe lifting recap. Principle number 1. Respect the natural curves of the spine. Keep your back straight and use positions of strength. These are the types of lifts that are commonly used: the squat or half squat, the swing, and the front split. Principle number 2. Use the right muscle group. Use small muscles, arms and wrists, for precision and stability. Use large muscles, legs, for heavy loads. And use abdominal, dorsal muscles for stability. Principle number 3. Point your feet in the direction of the effort. Don't twist. Principle number 4. Bring the center of gravity close to your body. The further away you hold the package, the harder you have to work to keep it stable. Hold packages close to your body for strength and stability. Get into the positions of strength for the squat, half squat position, swing position, front split position. It's acceptable to use any of these. Just use the position that is most comfortable for you and for the load you are lifting. For each of these positions, keep your back straight and your spine in neutral alignment. This allows you to use your large leg muscles for power. Lifting from a position of strength ensures you are using leg power, your large muscles. Keeping the package close to your body, retaining center of gravity, keeping your feet in the direction of the load helps to keep your body from twisting. Brick loading and falling objects. Now let's talk about safe brick loading practices and what to do about falling objects. These are the learning and performance objectives for this session. By the end of this session, you should be able to follow safe brick loading techniques. Stop yourself from trying to catch falling objects. There are some basic principles to safe brick loading. Use a staggered bricking technique rather than building in columns. Build in tiers to form a wall. Each tier must be as level as possible without gaps of space in between. Place larger, heavier items at the bottom and put smaller, lighter items near the top. Use safe lifting practices, meaning the 4 principles of safe lifting. Respect the natural curves of the spine. Keep your back straight. Use the right muscles. Point your feet in the direction of the load. Don't twist. And keep your center of gravity close to you. Hold packages close to your body. Following these principles helps build a secure wall that will be less likely to fall. If objects do fall, they're more likely to fall from the top, where objects are smaller and lighter, and less likely to cause damage or injuries.
At Purolator, the loading process we use is called brick loading. This is the same staggered bricking technique that builders use in construction. For additional stability, larger, heavier packages are arranged on the bottom tiers as a foundation, with smaller, lighter packages on the upper tiers. This creates a secure wall and prevents packages from being stacked in columns, which could easily topple over. Here are some key things to remember when brick loading. Ensure your work environment is well lit and free of clutter or obstacles. 2 people are required to carry large or heavy objects. Use safe handling procedures for pallets, monotainers, equipment, and machinery. Follow the procedures for loading dangerous goods and packages with other special handling requirements. Use safe lifting practices. Keep your back straight. Use your leg muscles. Point your feet in the direction of the effort and hold packages close to your body. Never catch falling packages. It's our natural instinct to try and catch a falling object. However, package size can be misleading. Even if a package looks light, it may be heavier than anticipated and could cause injury if you attempt to catch it. The safe thing to do is to move out of the way and let it fall to the ground. Be mindful of your physical state. Pay attention to your task. Don't rush. And if you feel frustrated, stop. If you find yourself working at a less than optimal state, take a moment to identify the issue and resume working only when you can follow safe practices. Your safety matters. While it's important to meet your goals, it's more important to prevent critical errors that can lead to injuries. Following the correct practices for brick loading, safe lifting, and falling objects, as well as being aware of your physical state, will help you stay safe.
What if objects do fall? There's only one principle to dealing with this. Never catch falling objects. That's it. Don't try to catch falling packages, no matter what. What should you do if a package falls? Get out of the way. It sounds simple, but it might be harder than you think. Pallet jack handling. We'll spend this session learning about pallet jack safety. These are the learning and performance objectives for this session. By the end of this session, you should be able to conduct a pallet jack inspection, explain pallet jack stability, operate a pallet jack safely, use a pallet jack only if you are trained. Pallet jacks are a type of equipment that we use to transport large, heavy loads of boxes on pallets or in monotainers. Only employees who have been trained to use pallet jacks may use them. You might also hear them being referred to as pump trucks or jiggers. Every time you use a pallet jack, you need to conduct a thorough inspection beforehand. Why is it necessary to do this inspection every time? Each use can potentially cause a problem due to usage and wear.
At Purolator, we use various types of equipment and machinery to help us with getting packages to their destinations. In our depots, pallet jacks are used for transporting large and heavy loads on pallets or in monotainers. Before operating a pallet jack, you need to conduct an inspection. This must be done every time you want to use a pallet jack. Let's go through the inspection steps. Inspect the forks for any cracks or damage. Inspect the wheels for any cracks or missing chunks. Ensure there are no oil or hydraulic leaks under or around the pallet jack. Ensure the forks can raise and lower. To raise the forks, pump the arm up and down. To lower the forks, press the lever on the steering handle. Ensure the pallet jack has a capacity data plate. The capacity data plate tells you how much weight the pallet jack can hold and the maximum dimensions for loading. Ensure the pallet jack operates smoothly in a forward and backward motion. You can do this by moving it in a figure 8 motion, like this. If any of these steps fail inspection, do not use the pallet jack. Follow the lockout-tagout process, then inform your manager. If the pallet jack passes inspection, then it's safe to operate it. Here are some do's and don'ts for safe operation. Only use the pallet jack if you are trained. Push the pallet jack rather than pulling it. Pushing it reduces strain injuries and prevents foot rollovers. Be careful in high traffic areas and around pedestrians. Report all damaged or unsafe equipment so it can be tagged and locked out for repair. Do not ride the pallet jack or engage in any horseplay. Do not exceed the maximum weight capacity. Do not block pedestrian walkways, fire exits, or emergency equipment. Do not allow the pallet jack to move without you. It could strike a pedestrian or other equipment. Finally, before you operate a pallet jack, check your physical state. If you feel rushed, fatigued, frustrated, or complacent, address the situation before using any equipment or machinery.
Here's the complete list of do's and don'ts that we just discussed. One of our don'ts is to not exceed the maximum weight capacity of the pallet jack, but you might be wondering how to know how much your load weighs. A good rule of thumb is to compare the load to a refrigerator. A refrigerator is too heavy of a load to carry on a pallet jack, so use your judgment, and if your load seems to be anywhere near the ballpark of a refrigerator, it should not be moved using a pallet jack. This would be a job for a forklift. Another one of our don'ts is to avoid pulling a pallet jack, but as you saw in our video, sometimes the employees do pull it. The reason we advise against pulling is because there are many locations on our premises where the ground is not flat and pulling a load on a decline means gravity will pull the pallet jack towards you and potentially strike you. Pulling a heavy load on an incline creates the risk of the pallet jack rolling away from you and potentially hitting another person, machinery, or equipment. If you're sure you're on a flat surface and your load is not too heavy, it is acceptable to pull instead of push. Use your judgment and push or pull as the load and environment requires. Another thing to remember is to make sure that the pallet jacks are stored properly when not in use. They must be stored so that the forks are not exposed. Ensure the forks are lowered and are placed under a pallet or monotainer to avoid the forks becoming a tripping hazard. Let's review it all in detail. The do's. Only use the pallet jack if you are trained and certified. Push the pallet jack rather than pulling it. Pushing it reduces strain injuries and prevents foot rollovers. Be careful in high traffic areas and around pedestrians. Report all damaged or unsafe equipment so it can be tagged and locked out for repair. Check your physical state and address it if it is not optimal before you use the pallet jack. The don'ts. Do not ride the pallet jack or engage in any horseplay. Do not exceed the maximum weight capacity. Do not block pedestrian walkways, fire exits, or emergency equipment. Do not allow the pallet jack to move without you. It could strike a pedestrian or other equipment. Do not operate the pallet jack if you feel rushed, fatigued, frustrated, or complacent. In this image, you see a worker pulling a pallet jack. This is a don't. Don't pull a heavy load. Do push it. In this image, you see a worker riding a pallet jack. This is a don't. Don't ride pallet jacks or engage in any horseplay. In this image, you see a pallet jack parked in front of a fire extinguisher. This is a don't. Don't block walkways, fire exits, or emergency equipment. In this image, you see a worker using a pallet jack with a lot of other workers around. This is a do. Do be careful in high traffic areas and around pedestrians. Handling pallets and monotainers with pallet jacks. This session covers the safe operation of a pallet jack with pallets and mono loads. These are the learning and performance objectives for this session. By the end of this session, you should be able to develop a habit of safe handling, loading, and unloading of monotainers in general and in conjunction with pallet jacks. Specifically, you'll be able to practice safe pallet and monotainer usage with pallet jacks, identify pinch points and other monotainer hazards, collapse and unfold monotainers safely, load and unload freight from pallets and monotainers safely. Now that we've covered the basics of safety regarding pallet jack operation, we need to discuss the safety concerns related to handling pallets and monotainers. To review, pallet jacks are used to move large heavy loads that are either built on pallets, which are sometimes called skids, or inside a monotainer. Pallets and monotainers have special concerns. What is a monotainer? Monotainers are essentially cages with moving parts. When not in use, monotainers should be collapsed to save space. Collapsing and unfolding monotainers requires special care due to sharp edges and the nip point hazards created by moving parts. Before using a pallet or monotainer, make sure it's in good condition. That means inspecting them to make sure there's no damage or broken parts. Before using a pallet or monotainer, make sure it's in good condition. That means inspecting them to make sure there's no damage or broken parts. Ensure you're wearing the appropriate PPE, specifically safety gloves and footwear, when handling pallets because the wood can give you splinters. It's also a good idea to wear gloves when using monotainers to prevent injuries due to sharp edges and getting your fingers caught in pinch points. Wearing safety footwear ensures you won't slip, trip, or fall when working with pallets and monotainers.
Working with pallets and monotainers in conjunction with pallet jacks requires care and attention to prevent injuries. When loading, choose a pallet or monotainer that is not damaged. Wear gloves to prevent splinters when handling pallets. Monotainers have moving parts, so it's important to be aware of pinch points. Safe loading means using the brick loading technique and safe lifting practices. Keep your load within the boundaries of the pallet or monotainer and ensure there is no overhang or leaning. Build your load no higher than 6 feet. Walking accounts for 70% of the load building process. Ankle injuries are the #1 type of injury sustained. For these reasons, make sure you're wearing the correct footwear to prevent slips, trips, and falls, and always be aware of your surroundings to ensure you avoid potential hazards. There are special concerns when unloading monotainers. When opening the monotainer, ensure that the lower set of pins are in place before removing the top pins that secure the flip-down portion. While positioning the monotainer, be aware of your surroundings at all times to ensure you do not position yourself between the pallet jack and a fixed object, where you could potentially get pinned. Position the monotainer so that the opening side faces the conveyor, far enough away that the gate can be lowered flat. Avoid kneeling against or leaning on the side. This will prevent injuries from sharp edges and prevent the monotainer from sliding away. Lower the gate all the way to the floor so you don't have to lean against or over the edge. To reach freight at the back or the bottom, step inside to avoid falling on sharp edges. Only step into and out of a monotainer if the gate has been lowered flat. Use care when stepping into and out of cages so you don't trip on the gate. Use safe lifting techniques. Keep your back straight. Avoid twisting your body. Bend at the knees and lift with your legs. When using a pallet jack to transport a pallet or monotainer, ensure that the load does not exceed the pallet jack's maximum capacity. Remember to push the load, not pull it. Before unloading packages from a pallet or monotainer, lower the pallet jack forks completely or remove them from under the load. This will prevent unexpected shifting of the pallet or monotainer during unloading. Due to the complexity of working with heavy loads and equipment, it's important to keep your eyes and mind on your task and avoid rushing or working while frustrated or tired. Your safety matters.
What's wrong with this picture? The pallet is broken. What's the solution? Report it, tag it for repair, and use another pallet. What's wrong with this picture? The worker is stepping into and out of the monotainer with the gate only partially lowered. It's a trip hazard since she does not have 3 points of contact as she steps out. What's the solution? Lower the gate all the way to the floor before stepping into and out of it. What's wrong with this picture? The monotainer is broken. What's the solution? Report it, tag it for repair, and use another monotainer. What's wrong with this picture? Unloading a monotainer while it's still on raised forks is unstable and can fall and cause damage and injuries. What's the solution? Lower the forks all the way or remove the pallet from the pallet jack completely. What's wrong with this picture? The worker is working with a monotainer without the appropriate footwear. There is a risk of a slip, trip, or fall. What's the solution? Wear the right footwear or put on toe guards. Note that toe guards are only a temporary solution to be used on an occasional basis if you don't have the correct footwear with you. They are not to be used every day. Ensure you have the correct CSA-approved footwear. What's wrong with this picture? The worker is leaning against the monotainer. There is a risk of injury due to sharp edges and pinch points. What's the solution? Lower the monotainer gate all the way to the floor and step into the monotainer. What's wrong with this picture? The worker is leaning over the edge of the monotainer. There is a risk of injury due to sharp edges and pinch points. What's the solution? Lower the monotainer gate all the way to the floor and step into the monotainer. What's wrong with this picture? The monotainer is loaded higher than it should be, with packages protruding over the top edge. What's the solution? Only load the monotainer to the top edge and no higher. What's wrong with this picture? The worker is not keeping their back straight, not using their legs to lift, and twisting their body. What's the solution? Bend at the knees instead of the waist, lift with their legs, and point their feet in the direction of the load instead of twisting. What's wrong with this picture? The pallet is not brick loaded. When a worker starts to unload it, it could topple over. What's the solution? Use the staggered brick loading technique to prevent loads from being unstable. Conveyor awareness and general safety recap. In this session, we will discuss the conveyor safety. These are the learning and performance objectives for this session. By the end of this session, you should be able to identify the safety features of conveyors and when to use them, describe the restrictions in place regarding conveyors, identify conveyor-related hazards, for example, pinch points and how to handle them, demonstrate how to safely operate and move around conveyors, take appropriate action in conveyor emergencies. Conveyors are a wonderful invention. They move large amounts of materials quickly and safely. They allow workers to reduce the amount of materials handled manually, thereby increasing work capacity and production output. Decreasing manual material handling also lessens the chance of injury to a worker's back and hands. Our conveyors and conveyor systems are a major part of our workflow. They're large and powerful, and because of that, they require special care and attention when working with and near them. Conveyors are safe when used correctly, but they can be dangerous and even deadly if workers fail to follow safety procedures when working on or around them. Materials should be placed on the conveyor so they will ride safely. When removing material from conveyors, workers should remain alert and safeguard their hands. The moving material can create pinch points. How someone is dressed, loose clothing, long hair, and jewelry when working on or around conveyors can present the risk of conveyor entanglement. There are a lot of safety considerations related to operating conveyors, but it's also critically important that you take personal responsibility to ensure your own safety. Here are some general rules and restrictions. Do's. Rules. Always wear the appropriate PPE and wear it properly when operating or working near conveyors. Tie back loose hair, avoid wearing loose clothing, and tuck any headscarves and lanyards so that they can't get caught in the conveyor. Lanyards must be the tearaway kind. Follow all instructions and warning signs. Only activate control features with your hands. Do not activate them using other body parts. Report unsafe conditions to your manager immediately. Don'ts. Restrictions. Do not operate system controls or change settings unless you're trained or instructed. Do not operate conveyors unless all guards are in place. Never engage in horseplay near conveyors. Never attempt to cross over or under a moving conveyor. Do not put non-conveyable or dangerous goods on a conveyor system. Important. In the rare event that a dangerous goods package must be conveyed, you must put a pylon in front of it and behind it to call attention to the fact that it's not a regular package. Let's look specifically at some conveyor-related hazards. In-running nip point hazards are caused by the rotating parts on machinery. On a conveyor, it is possible for a body part to be caught between moving and stationary parts of equipment or machinery. For example, where there are converging conveyor belts, there are sections of conveyors where the direction of a belt changes, and sometimes this causes two belts to converge. If a body part were to come in contact with that space during the pinching movement, there's a high chance of injury. Hands, fingers, and loose clothing, gloves, can get caught in parts that are moving, sliding, and collapsing in equipment, such as motorized material handling equipment, or MHE. We use machine guards to prevent injuries due to these hazards. We also have pop-up rollers. These are rollers that pop up when something is drawn in behind it. This significantly reduces the risk or severity of injury. Our conveyors are also outfitted with different types of control stops to disarm the machinery in part or entirely in case of a jam or an emergency. We'll talk about those in a moment. Along with the physical controls on the conveyor, we also have a preventative maintenance program to ensure that the conveyor components are always tightened, aligned, lubed, and cleaned. This also includes ensuring that all guards are in place and that they meet regulatory standards. And finally, we do monthly Workplace Health and Safety Committee inspections. What should you do if you see an exposed in-running nip point hazard? You should notify your manager. Pull the control stop to stop that portion of the belt. We'll talk more about this shortly. Allow management to apply electrical lockout/tagout procedures to prevent accidental restart. Inform all operators of the hazard immediately. Call the local maintenance contact on the emergency contact list, and ensure that all work is always completed by a trained and qualified employee. How does the lockout/tagout procedure work? If a piece of energized equipment is broken, for example, a conveyor is out of service, it cannot be accessed or used by anyone except for maintenance or authorized personnel. The lock that is used to lock out the broken equipment bears the name and photograph of the authorized personnel. Another conveyor-related hazard pertains to conveyors that run overhead. Precautions must be taken to prevent injuries from materials that may fall from above. If the conveyor runs at head height or carries materials hung from hooks, workers in the area should remain alert to possible danger, and measures should be taken to prevent workers from being accidentally struck by moving material. One of the do nots on our list of restrictions is do not walk on conveyor belts. Why do you think walking on a conveyor belt might be a bad idea? It's possible to get a foot or other body part wedged into a nip point, which could cause serious injury. We've had accidents happen where a Purolator employee climbed up onto a conveyor to clear some boxes that were jammed. The employee did not shut off the power to the conveyor, and his foot got wedged between the conveyor and the powered rollers. This resulted in him breaking his ankle. For reasons like this, the rule of crossing conveyors is don't. Crossing conveyors is extremely dangerous, even when they are not moving. We strongly discourage all employees from walking on conveyors and never attempt to walk on a moving conveyor. Important: know the conveyor safety rules and procedures of your location. There are some general safety precautions which should be followed by all employees, including those who don't work directly with conveyors. No one should ever climb over or crawl under a conveyor. Never ride on or otherwise use a conveyor for transportation. If you need to access the conveyor to fix a freight jam, there's a method for that. Important: to clear a jam, you must be trained and certified in proper jam clearing procedures. No one can clear a jam unless they are trained and certified. If you're not trained and a jam occurs, contact your manager for support.
Using conveyors requires special attention. To prevent injury when working around conveyors, ensure long hair is tied back and avoid wearing loose clothing and jewelry, and never cross over top or under a moving conveyor belt. A key feature of our conveyors is a series of control stops to be used if you need to stop a conveyor in motion. There are 3 types of conveyor control stops: a yellow cord, an amber button and a red button, the emergency or e-stop button. The yellow cord and the amber button are used to handle a freight jam or a broken package. Do not use the yellow cord or amber button for emergencies. Yellow cords are found on standalone conveyors. At some locations, like the Ontario Hub, trained and certified jam clearing specialists are required to clear jams occurring in certain locations within the facility. To fix a jam on a conveyor, the person who is trained and certified in jam clearing will: 1. Pull the yellow cord. 2. That section of the conveyor stops. 3. Clear the jam. 4. Ensure no one is near or on the belt. 5. Push the metal spindle up in the box at the end of the conveyor to restart. Amber buttons are found on conveyor systems involving multiple conveyors. To fix a jam on a conveyor system, 1. Push the amber button. 2. That section of the conveyor stops. 3. If you have to walk on the belt to fix the problem, pull the yellow safety cord to raise the red flag. This is a signal to others that someone is on the belt. The belt cannot be restarted while the red flag is up. Do not go beyond the safe zone. Consult your manager before accessing conveyors higher than 8 feet. 4. Clear the jam. 5. Pull the cord to lower the red flag. 6. Pull the amber button to restart the conveyor section. A high-pitched alarm will sound for 3 seconds to alert others in the area that the system is about to restart. Only the person who activated the control stop shall deactivate it. If an emergency occurs, you need to use the red e-stop button. What is an emergency? Situations such as employee entanglement, medical emergency, bomb threat, chemical spill, workplace violence, or evacuation. The e-stop should not be used for freight jams or broken boxes. To disarm entire conveyor system in case of emergency, 1. Press the nearest red e-stop button. 2. The conveyor stops. A red light illuminates at the point of activation. 3. Notify a manager or a first aid responder of the situation. 4. The manager ensures that the situation is resolved. 5. A trained operator resets the e-stop. 6. A high-pitched alarm will sound prior to restart. This alarm gives a 3-second alert to others in the area that the system is about to restart. Make sure you identify the conveyor control stops in your location. Knowing the appropriate situation to activate each type of control stop is as important as knowing the steps to activating them.
In reference to the video you've just watched, let's review some scenarios. Scenario number 1. A package on an upper level conveyor has gotten caught on a corner and is blocking the packages behind it from getting through. Answer: push the amber button. Reason: it's not an emergency. The freight jam has happened on a conveyor system. Scenario number 2. You notice that a nip point hazard has not been covered by a machine guard. Answer: push the red e-stop button. Reason: it's an emergency. The entire system must be disarmed until the machine guard is applied. Scenario number 3. 2 packages are traveling too close together on the conveyor, presenting a risk to cause a jam. Answer: nothing. Separate the packages to prevent a jam. Reason: no freight jam or emergency has occurred. Scenario number 4. A worker's tearaway lanyard has gotten caught in a nip point hazard. The worker is uninjured. Answer: push the red e-stop button. Reason: while this may not seem like an emergency, anyone witnessing the event from far away might not realize the lanyard was a tearaway, so it's best to assume it's an emergency and press the red button to stop the entire conveyor or conveyor system. A trained conveyor operator will need to remove the lanyard. Scenario number 5. A package has fallen over and spilled a toxic chemical onto the conveyor belt. Answer: push the red e-stop button. Reason: it's an emergency. The whole system must be disarmed so that the spill can be addressed. Scenario number 6. A package is broken open on an upper level conveyor. The conveyor is moving smoothly and there's no blockage. Answer: push the amber button. Reason: it's not an emergency, but a freight jam is likely, so this section of the conveyor system should be stopped to address the situation. Scenario number 7. A worker's sleeve has gotten caught in a nip point hazard. Answer: push the red e-stop button. Reason: it's an emergency. The whole system must be disarmed to prevent injury to the worker. Scenario number 8. An incident has occurred across the depot involving a worker tripping over the corner of a pallet and falling. He seems to have sprained his ankle. You want to help him, but you can't get around the conveyor. Answer: pull the yellow cord. Reason: it's not a conveyor emergency. You need to stop a section of the conveyor to cross it to get to another part of the depot. We thank you for taking the time to participate in the Operation Safety 8 Common Risks session. Remember, when you are unsure, always ask. Someone will always be available to assist you. Safety always is your motto in everything you do at Purolator. Enjoy your time at Purolator.